Hey, welcome back. Today, we are looking at targeted changes in South Korea's real estate tax policy and, what those tweaks reveal about a much deeper issue. That is the limiting realities of the national debt.
Right, so we need to start with a recent presidential directive. It concerns the capital gains tax exemption for multiple homeowners. The original deadline to qualify for this exemption was set for May 9th.
Right, but I mean, think of this like a toll booth bottleneck. If
hmm
you are sitting in line well before the deadline, you shouldn't be penalized just because the system's processing time is backing everything up.
Exactly. So now, merely applying for a land transaction permit by that May 9th date is enough to secure the exemption.
Which really makes sense.
It does. That adjustment reflects the practical reality of the market. Buying property in a designated land transaction permission zone involves administrative procedures that typically take 2 to 3 weeks.
Right, so 2 to 3 weeks is a long time when you have a hard deadline.
Yeah, insisting on a fully completed transaction by May 9th meant the real deadline was actually mid-April, and that unnecessarily freezes the market.
Yeah, that is just not practical. And there's a second regulatory review happening alongside this, aimed at single homeowners who have a tenant currently living in the property they want to sell.
Yes. Previously, only multiple homeowners had the flexibility to sell a tenant-occupied home to a non-homeowner.
Wait, why was that?
Well, that rule was originally put in place to prevent gap speculation. That is where buyers use a tenant's lease deposit to fund the purchase of the home.
Ah, right, I remember that.
But the administration noted this creates a restrictive situation. So single homeowners who legitimately need to sell are just stuck.
So changing that regulation aims to boost the actual housing supply, rather than just fueling demand. But stepping back, we are seeing these very specific micro-level regulatory tweaks instead of broad economic stimulus.
Right.
And why? Because the macro-level national wallet is, well, constrained.
We can see that constraint clearly in the Ministry of Finance and Economy's 2025 fiscal year report. South Korea's national debt has reached 1,304.5 trillion won.
Wow.
Yeah, representing a 129.4 trillion won increase from the previous year.
1,304.5 trillion won. I mean, that pushes the debt to GDP ratio to 49.1%.
It does.
But hold on. The report also mentions broader national liabilities hitting 2,771.6 trillion won. If the fixed debt is roughly 1,300 trillion, where is that extra trillion plus coming from?
So the national liabilities figure includes unconfirmed future obligations. The largest portion of that is future pension payments.
Oh, pensions. Okay.
Right, is money the government knows it will owe down the line, even if the exact timelines and amounts are not fully locked in today. And when looking at the immediate yearly budget, the report recorded a managed fiscal balance deficit of 104.2 trillion won.
And just to clarify for folks, that managed fiscal balance strips away mandatory Social Security and pension funds to show us what the government is actually spending day to day.
Correct. Seeing a 104.2 trillion won deficit there signals that day-to-day expenditures are consistently outpacing revenues.
Which makes me question the broader trajectory. I mean, we usually see deficits like this during sudden economic crises.
Right, like the pandemic.
Exactly. But recording another 100 trillion won deficit suggests this continuous shortfall is becoming a structural norm for the economy, rather than just a temporary crisis response.
It fundamentally limits the government's options. When you have structural deficits, you cannot just spend your way out of slow domestic markets.
Which brings us right back to those real estate policies. The government has to balance the need to stimulate domestic markets while managing a debt-to-GDP ratio creeping ever closer to that 50% mark.
Right, approaching 50% limits their ability to safely deploy fiscal stimulus without risking broader financial stability.
Exactly. So as the wallet tightens, folks, consider what other sectors might start seeing these tool booth-style regulatory tweaks instead of direct financial support.
It is definitely a space to watch.
That's all for today's deep dive.
We'll be back with more insights.
You've been listening to the Korea Economy Brief, straight from the front page of Seoul Economic Daily. Thanks for tuning in.